right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the tools, walk through those features, and ultimately help you get more value out of stock charts. That's our mission here every Friday up on the channel. My name is Grayson Rose, Director of Operations here at StockCharts.com. Good to be back with you. As you might be able to hear from my voice, I was out last week, a little bit under the weather, still kind of getting over a cold. It's that time of year. What can we do? But I'm feeling better being back in the saddle and excited to share some very, very cool things with you on today's show. Before we do that, we're going to jump over to the site in just a minute, but wanted to share with you what's going on right now for just another couple of days. We have our holiday special happening on Stock Charts. You can get up to 3 free months of Stock Charts right now and save almost $150 depending on your service level. So whether you are a brand new user, brand new member, haven't signed up yet, you've been thinking about joining as a Stock Charts member, it's a great time to sign up. One of our biggest sales of the year. Or if you are a current member and you want to save on the membership that you already have, this is a great time to renew your account, extend it out into the future, and you can save on the subscription that you already have. So let's jump over to the site. I want to show you how to take advantage of that, and then we'll dig into these horizontal lines, show you the value of that tool. We are starting on a page that we don't often highlight. That is the Stock Charts homepage. When you go to StockCharts.com, right now you can see that our homepage has been holiday-ified, I guess you would say. Props to the Stock Charts design team here for really sprucing things up. I love what they did with this little snowy Stock Charts logo. We got our snowmen here celebrating the holiday sale. But if you are interested in taking advantage of this holiday sale, this is the place to go. Check out the homepage. We've also have those little banners, colored banners across the top of the site. You might see those, but the homepage is going to be the easiest place to go here. You can actually learn more about exactly what's going on if you hit this Learn More button. Obviously, you can sign up for that special right there. Take advantage of those free months. But if you hit that Learn More button, we'll actually show you down on this page exactly how much you can save depending on the service level that you have. So like I said, a fantastic time of year to sign up if you are new to Stock Charts and you're not yet a member, but you want to take advantage of some of these tools and features that we have, things like what we're going to talk about on today's show. Or if you are a current member, this is a great time to extend and save on that membership. You get a choice. You can either sign up for 12 months and get 3 free, again, savings almost $150 off your Stock Chart subscription, or you can do 6 months and you'll get 1 month free as well. So you can save almost $50, depending on your service level, 20, 30, or 50, depending on those different service levels. But this page has everything that you need to know if you hit that Learn More button. And down here, we've also got some frequently asked questions. So definitely check that out. But on that Stock Charts homepage, that's going to be the easiest place to find this. Sign up for that holiday special. Don't forget, this is a great, great time to save. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the horizontal line indicator. Now, before we do, I want to mention we're going to do this show on our new SharpCharts Workbench. So if you jump over to the dashboard here, under the Member Tools section, you'll see a link to the new SharpCharts Workbench. We've talked about this on the show. We've got a new SharpCharts Workbench coming very, very soon. You are still going to have access to the existing page, the existing SharpCharts tool, but I think with some of the things that we're going to roll out on this new page, you are quickly going to want to start using the new one when it rolls out early next year. So keep an eye on that. We are definitely going to announce that in our newsletter and here on the show, but we are going to do today's show on that new SharpCharts Workbench. The tools that we're going to take a look at, though, they work on the old Workbench. They work on the current SharpCharts page. They also work well in ACP. So I've got this set up on all my charts around the site. Just for the sake of kind of getting you guys up and running with that new Workbench, we're going to take advantage of that tool today. So to get there, just hit this little link right here for new SharpCharts Workbench. Now, I've actually loaded this up with the page right here. So we are going to jump right into it now. So we're looking at, I kind of handpicked this symbol because it's a great representation of what we're going to talk about today. But we're looking at something that is actually built directly into all of my charts. What you're looking at on the screen right now is my default chart style. This is the chart type that I use. I've got, we demonstrate this quite a lot. We've got about a year and a half worth of data. We've got our relative strength line up here, a couple of moving averages, and we've got volume. But there's something hidden on this chart that you don't see when I first load it up. When we scroll down to the chart settings area, we see all of the different settings that are built into this chart. We've got our daily period, we've got our 1.5 year range, here's our price performance indicator with that relative strength line and the volume indicator, here's our moving averages. All of that stuff is visible on that chart up above. But as you can see right here, there are 4 horizontal lines built into this chart template. I've added these blank horizontal line overlays to my chart. These are some of the most useful things that I have on my charts. Again, I've done this in ACP as well, so any platform you can use this little trick on. These little horizontal lines, though, make a huge difference when it comes to managing my watch list, tracking new trades that I might want to put on, and they make a huge difference when it comes to monitoring my open positions. As soon as I actually put a trade on, as soon as I actually go out and buy something and I own it in my portfolio, these horizontal line indicators become incredibly important. As you can see, they have different styles. Some of them are dashed, some of them are solid, and they've got different colors: green, red, orange, and blue. So I've built these in. Again, these are part of the chart style. So whenever I load a chart up on this screen, those horizontal line tools are already there. Because the parameters boxes are empty, the horizontal lines aren't going to display on my chart, so they don't get in the way of anything. They're just sitting there waiting for me to use. But I use these to track my trades, again, from sort of the stocking phase all the way through the buying phase until something becomes a real position. And then when I become go into that phase of monitoring that position, watching that trade evolve, I'm still using these horizontal line tools. So I've picked Steel Dynamics here because it is a great example of a stock that's making a nice breakout. If we go back and actually turn on that inspect tool so we get those cross lines, you can see that kind of right here around that 120 level, Steel Dynamics making a really lovely breakout here. Actually has made that move and has come back down to retest it from the top. Now, for the system that I trade, I like to buy breakouts. So this is the type of setup that I like to look for out there in the market. I like things that are breaking out to new highs, that are outperforming the market, that relative strength line moving higher. So when I see a stock like Steel Dynamics coming across my screen, coming across my scans, different things like that, this is the type of setup that piques my interest. Now, I like to use the inspect tool because it gives me a great easy way to see those horizontal lines, track those breakout levels, and see exactly what price points I might be interested in placing a trade at. So this inspect tool is kind of the first horizontal line indicator that I like to use. Once I've actually moved this stock, though, into one of my watch lists, and I've set this up as something that's on my radar that I might be interested in trading in the future, what I'm going to start to want to do is say, okay, if I'm interested in Steel Dynamics, where's my ideal entry point? Where is the breakout point? Where does this trade become really interesting to me? So for instance, in this case, I might be tracking this breakout level. We can see that we tested this back in January, and then again in early December, we hit kind of that 120 level. So this has kind of been a point of interest for this stock, right? And that's where I'm going to draw that horizontal line across. So I'm actually going to look this up. I'm going to use that inspect tool, hover over that candle and say, okay, the close was 120.01. That's an interesting price to keep in mind. And if we look at this other candle over here, we can see where was our close, 119.75. So I like to pick the higher close because, again, I want price confirmation as this thing is moving up. So I'm going to mark that 120.01 level. That is going to be sort of my ideal entry point on this chart that I want to keep a close eye on if I am going to put a trade on for this thing. So this is where our horizontal line tools become very important. Once we've got that price point picked out, I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to take advantage of that first empty horizontal line. Again, our price level was 120.01. So I'm going to type that into the box and hit enter. And when I do, you can see that horizontal line now appears on that chart. So I've set this up on my charts with a green dashed line built into my chart template. that to me marks my ideal entry point, or kind of those spots that I want to watch on this chart. So when I'm going through my watch list and I'm looking at different potential trades, different potential setups, I'm able to compare and contrast really, really quickly between how promising different opportunities are, because I'm marking those entry points on my charts with this horizontal line. So you can see I've got that ideal entry point there marked on my chart. Now, if I want to mark a second one, maybe I want kind of another higher entry point that I want to keep in mind depending on how this trade sets up. Let's say I wanted to mark this candle up here. So we'll do the close on that candle, 126.67. I can now drop down to that green horizontal line indicator, and I can actually type multiple values into these boxes. So 126.67 there. I can hit enter, and now I've got another potential entry point into this stock. So again, these are points of interest. I want to see the stock hold these levels. I want to see the stock move above these levels, and they might be potential areas where I want to actually put that trade on. So I can quickly mark those levels on my charts because I've got that horizontal line indicator built right into my chart template. Now, I use the dashed horizontal line to indicate a potential target, basically an entry target for any new trade. So when you go through my watch list, I've got a ton of different stocks all marked with these dashed green lines, which indicate potential targets, areas of interest for me where I might want to put that trade on. Let's say Steel Dynamics becomes an actual position that I put on. Let's say I like it at this dashed green line here. We're finding a little bit of support there. We're bouncing today. So let's say that Steel Dynamics actually becomes a trade that I put on. Once I actually go out and I buy something, now it's part of my portfolio, the horizontal lines become even more important. Again, I've used that dashed line built right into my chart templates to mark my potential entry. But once that potential entry becomes a real point where I've actually taken a position in this trade, I can now mark my cost basis on my charts. Once this becomes a position, I can use these built-in horizontal lines to actually start to track my trade. I can turn that potential entry point into a real line. Let's say I get into this trade at 120.08, for instance. Well, I can type that value, my cost basis for that entry, right into that box. And from there, I now turn it from a dashed thick line into a solid thick line. So if I scroll back up, you can see that I can now quickly turn that horizontal line into a solid thick line. Now, I keep a chart list in my account that's got all of my positions in it. That's something I highly recommend that every StockCharts user do. Create a chart list, take all the positions that you have, put those charts into that chart list so that you can very quickly flip through the charts of different positions that you actually have. This is kind of the next step for me. Once I've created that chart list, I've put all the things that I own in that list, I then start to mark up my charts with these horizontal lines depending on the trade that I've put on. So I take all of the details on my trades and I actually use these horizontal lines to indicate exactly sort of how that trade is structured. So again, we use that dashed horizontal green line to indicate our potential entry. Once that becomes a real position, I turn it from a dashed line into a solid thick line, put my cost basis in there. And now, let's say this was a position that I had. As soon as I pull up that chart of Steel Dynamics, I know exactly where my entry was. I'm not guessing. I'm not going out to my brokerage and having to look it up. I'm not pulling up a spreadsheet or a piece of paper. As soon as I see this chart, I know exactly where my entry point was on that trade. That is the beauty of putting these horizontal lines straight into your charts. They're actually part of the chart, and every time you pull up that chart, you can see exactly where your entry point is. So I've marked my entry point on this chart with that solid green line. Now it's time to build in some of those other horizontal lines. Once I've taken a position, the next thing I'm going to do is set my stops. Incredibly, incredibly important, especially in a fast-moving market like we have here today. So I'm going to hover over this chart. I'm actually going to pull up exactly where that entry point was. And this is a great feature of the inspect tool. You can actually measure different things on this chart. If you click and drag in any direction, you can measure. So I'm going to hover over that green line and I am going to measure down to start to set my stops. Personally, I like to use a bracketed stop system. Ideally, I'm looking at about a 10% stop loss on any trade that I put on. I'm going to set that though based on the chart itself, and I'm going to bracket two stops, 50% and 50%, around about a 10% stop loss. A little bit technical there, but basically I'm going to put on an 8% stop loss and a 12% stop loss, somewhere around there, depending on the chart. So for me, I'm going to measure down about 8%. I'm going to find that 8% level, and then I'm going to start to look around that 8% level for key sort of pivot points around the chart. Now, in this case, you can see we've been trading in this kind of horizontal range here in Steel Dynamics. We're breaking out above that, and at about an 8.5% drawdown from that entry point, that was some serious resistance for this stock. So that becomes important to me. If we start if this trade goes against me and we get down to some of those levels, this is where I'm going to want my first stop. So I'm actually going to measure this. Let's say I want it just below the close on this candle, about 110.34. So I'm going to come down to my next horizontal line, and I'm going to type in my first stop. Let's say we set our first stop at 110.34. Now, in some cases, you might use just one stop on the chart. In my case, again, using that kind of bracketed stop system, I'm actually going to draw two stops on my chart because I'm going to do a 50% stop at that 8% drawdown, and I'm going to do the second 50% stop at about a 12% drawdown. Now, when I measure that down, we can see that we had some more resistance kind of a little bit lower down in this range. So I'm actually going to use this candle to set that next stop around a 12% stop loss, 104.83. And again, you can type in multiple values to any of these boxes using just by separating them with a comma. So that value was, what was it? 110. Where was that actually? All right, bear with me. 110.83. That was about here. It was this candle. So we're going to do, let's say 104.83. 104.83 is going to be our second stop. So I'm going to type that in. Now I'm starting to actually draw this trade right on this chart. So I've got my entry point, I've got my first stop, I've got my second stop. Now, as soon as I pull up that chart of Steel Dynamics, again, I'm going to save this into that positions portfolio. I know exactly what I own. I'm putting it in that chart list. Now, when I pull up that chart of Steel Dynamics, I can see the trade that I put on right here on this chart. I know my entry, I know where my stops are. The next things that I want to say are, what's my kind of point of concern? Now, I've set my stops again at about 8 and 12%. I might not want to let this trade get all the way down to 12% until I get kicked out of it. If this thing starts to go against me, I might just say, you know what, I'm going to cut my losses at a higher level, and I'm going to jump into something else that's breaking out, especially when we have a strong market like right now. If the trade starts to go against me, I might just say, hey, it's reached kind of a higher level point of concern for me, so I'm going to take the trade off, jump into something else. So I like to use orange lines on my chart to mark sort of areas of concern. This works when I first put on a trade, but also as something develops. Let's say Steel Dynamics moves higher and I'm adjusting my stops up. Again, I have that orange line marked on this chart to kind of indicate, areas of concern. If it breaks below this level, think about getting out of this trade. So for me, when I look at this chart, right around here, we can see that we actually had some support that came in back there. Then we broke that. Then it kind of became resistance later in 2023. So right around here, right around 115, right around kind of the top of this candle, 115.25. To me, that's going to be kind of an area of concern. If I put it on this trade and Steel Dynamics breaks through this, it becomes a loss, and it starts to come down to this 115 level, it might be a failed breakout, and I might want to say, you know what, I'm not going to let it run all the way down to my stops. I'm just going to sort of cut out early and get out of this trade. So I like to mark those areas of concern with an orange line. For me, that's going to be here at about 115.25. So I'm going to draw down to our, scroll down to our horizontal lines here, 115.25. Again, I've got that dashed orange line built right into my chart template, so I can mark that area of concern right on these charts. Now you're seeing that area of concern right in there. So when I see this thing, if it does break below that entry point, when I see this thing get down to that orange line, that might be an indicator for me to say, you know what, might be time to move on from this trade. Take the small loss and move on to something better. The flip side, though, is where am I going to add to this position if it does start to work? If the position takes off, the breakout holds, we see steel dynamics continue to run higher, I might want to add to that position. I don't like to get into my positions with 100% of my allocation right up at the start. I like to ladder into my positions. I take an initial jump into a new trade. Then if the market proves me right, I will add to that position over time. I will buy at a higher and higher price, and I'll eventually build up to 100% position. So I like to actually mark that on my charts. Now, we can use that tool again to measure. Let's say we wanted to add at about a 10% jump. If this thing runs up 10% and makes another breakout above some of these previously tested prices here from kind of the beginning of 2023, that might be a nice time to add to steel dynamics. The market's proving us right. That breakout is continuing to hold. And if we can see steel dynamics get above kind of that 130 level, that might be a nice time to add to that position. So again, I can use that inspect tool, kind of measure some of these candles. 131.05 is going to be a candle of interest to me. So I can use this blue line down here at the bottom to mark, what was that, 131.05. I got to remember these values, 131.05. I can type that into that blue horizontal line, and now I've got a fully structured trade built right into this chart. I know my entry, I know my stops, those are the red lines. I know my point of concern where I might say I'm cutting out early and I'm getting out of this trade. And I also know where I'm interested in adding to this position. That's going to be that blue line. So this is how I use the horizontal line tools to actually mark up my charts with all of the details of any given trade. Now, the one other very, very important part of this horizontal line system is that these will actually stick at different periods and different ranges. So if I come down to this chart and I've actually marked those on the chart, right? Their horizontal lines are going to go across those values. Let's say I want to look at a longer term view on steel dynamics. I want to jump out to a longer term weekly chart. Well, I can change this to a weekly chart and I can jump out to, let's say, a 5-year weekly chart. Because those horizontal lines are marked on this chart and they're going to go across at that value, when I change the period, when I change the range, when I change some of those different things about this chart, that trade is still going to be marked here. So I can actually jump out to a longer term view and still see exactly how this trade is set up, exactly how I've put this thing in place. So you can see my entry, you can see my stops, you can see that point of concern, and you can see that level that we're thinking about adding at. So this is why I think these horizontal lines are very, very important, very, very useful. Again, you can do this with annotations. I've seen a lot of people do that. They'll use the horizontal line annotation to mark those different entry points, or maybe just little text boxes and things like that. But when you zoom that chart out, let's say you jump out to a longer term weekly view from a daily or something like that, the annotations won't necessarily stick around for that chart. The beauty of the horizontal line tool is that you can continue to evolve this chart, add other indicators, change the period, change the range, different things like that. And those sort of trade tracking tools are still going to be imprinted right on that chart. So that is our show for today, showing you how I track all of my trades from a potential watch list item trade that I am thinking about putting on, all the way through real position and a fully executed trade. I can track my entry points, I can track stops, areas of concern, areas of that I might want to add to that position, all of that stuff. I can use horizontal lines to track all of that. You can save these right to your chart templates and then save those charts right into your own account with chart lists. It is a great, great way to monitor your open positions and, of course, monitor those watch list items, different things that you are tracking as potential setups as well. Hopefully this has helped give you some ideas, though, of how these different tools can be used for you as you go about tracking your own trades and your own positions. I think this is a really, really easy way to track those different elements of a trade. And the key is that it's also a great reminder of where my entry points are, where my stops are. And as soon as I see something that's run, far enough above my stops that I really, really need to start adjusting those things higher to make sure I lock in those profits, this can be a great way to sort of keep yourself honest. It's a great way to see exactly where your entry is. If a trade has gone against you, you know how far off that trade is. Or if something has moved higher, it's a great reminder, hey, this is 20% above your stops. You really got to adjust these things up. There are a lot of reasons why I think this is a powerful thing to do, powerful little process booster here for you as a trader, as an investor, being able to mark up those details right on your charts. Very, very crucial. So hopefully you've seen how I personally use this system. Always, if you got any questions about any of this stuff, reach out to our support team, say that you got a question. All that stuff typically makes its way to me if you've got a question. You can also find me on Twitter if you've got any questions there, if you're on that platform as well. So hopefully you've had some fun seeing this little system. Again, another thing right out of my process, another little value add here on Stock Charts. Speaking of stock charts, remember our holiday special going on right now. Only another couple of days. It's only going through the end of this month. So right now, take advantage of that holiday special. Get up to 3 free months. Again, a great time of year to sign up if you are not yet a member. But also, if you are currently a member, this is a beautiful time of year to extend your account and save. If you're going to be a Stock Charts member for the next 6 months or 12 months, why not extend at a lower price? This is the time of year to do it. So check out the homepage. That's one of the easiest ways to get there. You can also go to stockcharts.com/special. That'll take you right to that page where you can sign up for that holiday special. I want to thank you again for joining me on the show today. It has been wonderful to be with you. Always fun to share a little bit of things out of my own personal toolkit. So hopefully you've had fun here doing that today. We'll be back next Friday with another edition of Stock Charts in Focus. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Spend some time with family and friends. It is the time of year to do that. So hopefully it is a wonderful, warm, happy holiday season for all of you. We'll be back soon with another edition of Stock Charts in Focus. But until then, chart on, my friends.